Hello, my name is Stephen Horner with Valley City State University. For my class of Communications 314 Interpersonal Communications, I did an oral presentation on Lowell Busching, the studies of his life, with the Barnes County Museum. Throughout this time in 2015, I conducted a series of interviews with Lowell. This was to record his life and what he has done with his life so it's not lost through the generations of time, but to be recorded in the Barnes County History Museum. I recorded this information via iPad and then compiled some bits and pieces of information here. The rest and biggest copy of this interview is in the Barnes County Museum. Throughout this process, I learned the different types of people that we are because of our age. We had to coordinate differently because of our schedules and our complexity of time. And then we also had to compile questions to ask each other that were relevant to his timeline. I also had to deal with technological problems with the interviewing. Some interviewing is cut short, some interview is extended, but altogether it is the greatest interview I could achieve. With my interview with Lowell, I uncovered different communicational techniques across my interviewing. First of these would be cold calls, where I call him with no information about him, but had to start a conversation. The next is hot topics, is to figure out what Lowell is interested about. I learned that this could be where travels these places, since he has been there a lot. Eye contact is also a big. People from that generation love eye contact, and nonverbals always to keep the communication flowing smoothly.
Like I told you in the other segment that even if you still can't decide what you want to do, like in your case, you want to be a police officer or in the police work. Mm-hmm. So you've got a goal, but some people still get through college almost without still knowing what they want to do. My advice is still get the degree. I don't care what it's in, like animal husbandry, like I told you that one young lady did, or teaching school, or that they still do. It's in the latest college magazine. It talks about how this college is still good for teaching K-12 teachers and stuff like that. And get a teacher degree, get any kind of degree, because just about all the companies that you'll ever work for, they don't care what the degree is in. If you made it through a 4-year college and got your diploma, that to them that indicates that you'll finish something. You won't start it and say, oh well, I don't like this, I'm leaving, or I'm going to do this. So if you go in the company and you say, well, I want to do this, you might have to work for a while on whatever you got trained on, but you have a lot better chance of, not only with pay, you'll get paid more to start with, and you'll get a better chance to get into what you want to do. Example of that was while I was in that programming school. It was a private programming school for a company that I'm not even sure they exist anymore, but they were good at that time, and they had a lot of employees that couldn't work anymore because of these contract changes. So some of their experienced employees came back as instructors to teach. That worked out good, because if the computer went down, they were able to go and fix it themselves, and so they could process your programs and stuff like that. And then at the end, they brought in a motivational speaker where they tried to get somebody that had taken the class. And the one they brought in for our class was a guy that he took the programming course, and they couldn't, almost no companies were hiring anybody with just the schooling. They would lead you to believe that you could finish the 2-year course and then go out. But I took it just to find out what programmers did, so they couldn't give me a snow job. And they call and say, oh, wait, we can't do that, or we can do this. And it worked out good. I was able to, when some programmer would tell me, wow, well, we can't do that, I'd be able to convince him to tell me that I won't do it because they won't pay me for it. It wasn't that he couldn't do it. And anyway, this motivational speaker, he wanted to work in the programming department of this particular company. they would not hire him for that.
Throughout my interview with Lowell, I have learned that knowledge is power. He told me to strive for knowledge, not only because it'll better myself, but it'll better myself in my field that I plan to go to, or anybody's field that I plan to go to. Lowell is key on education. He believes that specializing is the greatest thing you can do in a career, and he believes that it is the best way to advance in a career and or get a job. Lowell, throughout his history, once joked to me that he thinks he has almost read every book in the library. And I wouldn't doubt that. He has told me stories from his childhood where he used to hang out there. He didn't consider himself part of the in crowd, but he considered himself part of the educated crowd. And that is what has led to his success throughout his life.
So I ended up going on a trip to Bermuda and a couple times via South America over to this island of Ascension in the middle of the Atlantic between Brazil and South Africa. And I wouldn't say I lucked out going there twice. I could have gone to one of the other places. I missed the trip to Australia, but I got out to Guam and Mexico and a few other places like that. So that turned out to be a pretty good job. And in between time, I also worked at the tracking station at Goldstone in California, that Apollo tracking station there that, like I say, monitored the flights around, the ones they went around the world. And then I went down to the island of Antigua again, back in the Caribbean again. This is really a resort island that advertised one beach for every year, or every day, one beach for every day, 365 beaches. It was close to it. They had beaches all around it, just a small island, but again, it wasn't bad duty. You could go over and visit the resorts.
Lowell has impressed me so much with this story. He has been everywhere, done everything, and he loves every minute of it. Even though he has been busy throughout his whole life, he has no regrets. He never married or had children, but he substituted that with having a fulfilling life and traveling to all these countries. I envy what Lowell has done, because almost nobody, has ever done or tried this because of time restrictions, but Lowell has had the freedom to do whatever he wants and to enjoy every bit of it.
First memories is only because my parents took a few pictures then. They never didn't take a lot later on, and so I got the memory of the first house that we lived in that had a big porch, and I would go out there and play soldier or whatever. They got some little uniforms for me during towards the Second World War, So I'd had a sailor suit and a little army suit, but I wasn't a fighter. I guess I was just writing orders or something.
Yeah.
That was probably the earliest memory that I think I remember, but the earliest memory was back. It was at the end of the Depression in the 30s, and we had a lot of, we call them bums now, but they were out of work people that came into town. And some of them were trying to make some money rather than just beg for money. So the earliest memory that I have was going to the back door with my mother, and there was a guy that had a big wheel for sharpening knives, and I think that would work for your thing there. The idea that how Valley City was at that time, there was a hobo jungle down by the Rainbow Bridge, and then these guys would be drifting in and out of town to try to make a couple bucks so they could buy an apple or something. That's how bad things were back then.
Lowell has not only told me about his life, but he's told me about the life of Valley City. He's told me of all the different structural changes that have happened throughout Valley City. For example, Dutton's photography shop used to be a theater. That surprises me because I've been inside there and it looks a lot smaller than what it actually is. It used to hold hundreds of people to view videos back in the day. Valley City has changed a lot since its generation. If it's been from schooling, just from movies, or just life itself. Lowell has experienced all of this, and I am humbled by his experiences and his thoughts to tell me what the changes are. In conclusion, I am excited that I had Lowell and I had the time to interview him. I have learned many things about Lowell, especially that once you get him going, it's hard to get him stopping, and I love that about him. I am honored to have learned his story, and I am honored to pass it on to future generations, whether it be 10 years down the road or 100 years down the road. I think the knowledge necessary to evolve comes from the past, and this is just one story that can come from the past.